The NABU and other international associations demand independent safety research. Could you explain what you understand to be independent?
The word independent is primarily a criticism of that which we observe in the moment, since we see that very many industrial researchers are involved with safety assessments, and we believe that it is not adequate when molecular biologists develop plants and then also simultaneously assess them, and in risk assessment conceive the design in principle and then execute it. What we observe is that in the Ministry for Research, the calls for bids in safety research already are so written, according to our point of view, that simply only certain research teams are appropriate. Basically, we demand that a stakeholder dialogue takes place that first states how risk assessment should be evaluated at all, how it should be conceived at all. The attempt should be made there to find a social consensus much earlier on.
More concretely, how would your form or design of safety research be different from which currently takes place? What other topics, other methods, or other participants would there be? How would this be appropriately composed?
I think that one should first come together with a variety of scientists, not only with molecular biologists, but also with ecologists and also with sociologists to address the questions that we currently have in the European debate. One needs a socio-economic assessment or risk assessment. One needs the participation of relevant experts, as I believe that this is a task that natural scientists, as we've just seen, can't perform particularly well. The first question should be, what are the problem areas? They're socio-economic on the one hand, but also include long-term, comprehensive risk assessment. What can happen when plant XY does spread its transgenes, not only here, but also in the regions from which it came? Also, primarily, issues that are particularly close to me and to us as NABU, recurring issues. We have protected nature areas, and our members come and say, well, how does MAN 810 affect butterflies and aquatic organisms? How can we protect these areas if we don't even know what risks exist in principle? I'd like to see an attempt towards such coordination, after which one could ask, what research do we need to answer these questions?
You've outlined it in principle. Could you state your preferences for the next steps in safety research? Concretely, which topics, which research questions would you approach next?
Well, very important for us are aquatic ecological observations. First, what is the degree of exposure at all in bodies of water? It's not the case everywhere that maize fields are directly adjacent to water. The point is to find out how the flow from these fields into water in different federal states occurs. Brandenburg, for example, is completely different to Baden-Württemberg when you look at the field strips next to the water. The details are very complicated, and of course there's the question of action time. What effect does the Bt toxin have on aquatic organisms here in Germany? We've got indications from America, but it's difficult at the moment to sort and assess them. Ultimately, we're unable to say and unable to estimate whether it's a real risk or a suspected risk. Where can the Bt toxin do damage to the aquatic ecology, and also what significance does it have?
Independently of questions of your view towards the form and manner of safety research, how do you see the findings of safety research today? According to the criticisms you've posed, are the findings worthless from a purely scientific point of view, or are they indeed usable in some form? It's a common source of complaint that
one asks the question, is this research good or bad? It's not about the content of truth in research. That which always is criticized is the evaluation. How do I interpret these findings? One side says naturally, well, the results aren't spectacular, so we've just proven that it has no effects on, oh, I don't know, particular organisms. The other side then says, of course, you haven't looked everywhere, you haven't placed it in the right context, and so on. I believe at this point, at the point of evaluation, science doesn't help us proceed. That's a political question, and I believe that debate has to occur at that point. I see the findings of biosafety research certainly as interesting, but currently they simply do not answer my questions.